Good afternoon, everyone. Did you really think a car crash on the expressway was enough to stop me? Kunle, you look like you've seen a ghost. Why is your hand shaking? I stood there watching my best friend and my business partner turn as white as a ghost. He was sitting in my chair, already spending my billions while people were still crying over an empty grave. They thought the fire took me. They thought the platinum Patek on the charred wrist was the end of my story. I didn't die that night. I vanished so I could see who would dance on my grave and who would truly weep for the man behind the money. My name is Tobechukwu Alade, but the name that mattered, the one printed on the billboards and whispered in the lobbies of Lagos, was Toby of Lagos. The golden billionaire, the unstoppable visionary, the man with the Midas touch. Everyone called me a genius, a titan, a king of comets. But let me tell you the truth. The only resources I ever achieved was learning who truly cared about me after I disappeared. My life was a constant performance. I started small, a determined young man with a fierce hunger. And I built an empire that spanned ports, tech, and real estate. I thought money was the shield. I thought status was the reward. We had just secured the biggest infrastructure deal in West Africa. The room exploded in cheers. My team was ecstatic, their faces flushed with the adrenaline of wealth. I stood by the panoramic window, the lights of Victoria Island, a dazzling endless spectacle below. We have proven them wrong again. Only my closest partner slapped me hard on the back. Champion, you did it. We are unstoppable. But as I looked at Kunle, I saw not a brother but a brilliant, ambitious reflection of myself. A reflection whose own light was perpetually eclipsed by mine. A small flicker of resentment, quickly masked by a congratulatory grin. I dismissed it, as I always did. Kunle is my brother, I told myself, but the seed of doubt was planted. What if everything I had built, the empire, the relationships, the respect, what if it wasn't real? What if people who smiled at me were smiling at the money behind me? I didn't vanish because I was tired of being rich. I vanished because I was tired of being misunderstood. I staged my death with surgical precision. It was an art form of misdirection, leveraging my own powers to dismantle my identity. I knew exactly what I was doing. The sequence was flawless. An empty car, a controlled crash on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, a specific contact, a high-level forensic officer who owed me a deep, dark, multi-million-dollar favor from years ago, who guaranteed the final report. The body was an adult male of similar build, and the fire did its job. But the true evidence that sealed the lie was my unique platinum-cased Patek Philippe watch. The last gift from my father, which was strapped to the wrist and survived the heat. Due to the fire's severity, the final police report stated that while DNA was inconclusive, the presence of Toby Alade signed Patek and matching dental records made the assumption conclusive enough for closure and insurance purposes. The final nail, a clause in my secretly updated will, demanded a swift private cremation due to a fictional severe phobia of being buried, preventing any further forensic review. News broke with violent speed. Billionaire Toby Alade dead in tragic accident. I slipped out of the country disguised as a private security contractor, underwent the necessary physical changes, and returned as Olaruwaju, a quiet man just trying to survive. I grew a huge beard and afro and gained weight, and the stylist did good job on me. I was totally transformed. I chose Agege. It's geographically and socially miles away from my previous life, a perfect blind spot. My new reality was a cramped room with cracked bathroom tiles, water pressure that hissed, and a ceiling fan that shook like it might fall. My challenge wasn't just the clothes, it was shielding the aura of wealth. I spent hours practicing my posture, letting the constant tension of command drain out, replacing it with the heavy slump of a man who stands on his feet all day. When I spoke, the refined voice was locked away. I maintained a simple neutral working class accent, speaking with the deference of the unseen. Nobody knew me. Nobody watched me. Nobody expected anything from me. I could walk down the street and just be human. I looked at the mirror. See me see wahala. So, now maybe this way look like buff buff. In that anonymity, I rediscovered the freedom of insignificance. I wasn't reading their public grief. I was observing private reactions. First, Kunle, my closest partner. I watched video evidence of him in my old office, speaking to my CFO. He didn't waste a minute. He began redirecting key contracts, seizing shares, shifting assets, rewriting the entire narrative of the company's success to center himself. He was already working to dissolve key partnerships that relied solely on my personal trust. So now so you be Kunle. After all the things we don't do together, you dey betray me. You be like hyena in human skin. Chai. They held a private memorial at a luxury venue in Victoria Highland. No one cared about my family because the only family member I ever talked about was the one who lived in America. And they knew we were not in good terms, so there was no need. My father had long gone. I had no wife. I was divorced. And my kids, they all lived in America. And nobody cared about them because they believed I never contacted them. But that was the story I made up to make everything so clean and neat. So let's continue. Kunle gave a toast, smiling with crocodile teeth. Toby was a powerful man, but he made mistakes. Now we must move forward with our team. Then someone cracked a joke. At least now there will be less stubborn decisions from the top. Laughter, toasting, smug smiles surrounded the room. They weren't grieving a friend. They were celebrating a vacancy. But among the laughing wolves sat one quiet soul, Sonia. She wasn't drinking, laughing, nor networking. She sat with her hands clasped and her head bowed. Her quiet, genuine grief drew me like gravity. Her tears had dried on her cheeks, but her grief was fresh. She whispered, barely audible, to the person beside her. He was a good man, even if nobody else understood him. That hit me deeper than any betrayal because in a world that saw a billionaire, she saw a person. Days passed. I moved among bosses and street hawkers. I queued for ATM machines that ran out of cash. I discovered something profound. When you lose your identity, you regain your humanity. Money shields you from life, but it also isolates you from it. Money not dey buy real friendship, and money not dey buy true love. And that's the statement of fact. I visited Sonia to confirm her sincerity without revealing myself. I posed as an errand messenger from a foundation. I met her privately. I asked her, what did you truly think of the man they call Toby? She exhaled, tired, sad, honest. The sound of my original sharp voice was absent from my throat. I used only the soft, neutral tones of Olaruwaju because of the social barrier I had created. She never connected the humble messenger to the demanding billionaire. She replied, he was flawed, sometimes too demanding, sometimes too intense, but he cared, he tried. They would tear his name apart now that he isn't here to defend himself. Finally, someone who saw me, not the billionaire, but the imperfect human beneath. The moment of my return had to be precise. A private board meeting. They were discussing the final lucrative asset liquidation. Kunle in full arrogant command, and then the door opened. I walked in, clean shaven, in a simple black suit that screamed quiet wealth, not aggressive powers. "Good afternoon, everyone." The room went still. A pen dropped. Kunle's voice cracked, a horrifying mixture of fear and denial. You are, but you are dead." "No, Kunle. I was watching, and Lagos watched with me." Faces went pale. A woman crossed herself. Someone whispered, "What are we seeing here? A ghost?" "No, a reckoning." I walked slowly around the table. When a man dies, truth surfaces. When I disappeared, all of you revealed yourself, for better or worse. I showed them the evidence, projected on the boardroom screen, audio recordings, financial traces, fake transfers, asset siphoning, forged endorsements. Kunle broke, collapsing onto his knees. "Toby, please, I was desperate. I was confused." "No, you were honest. For the first time, you showed me who you truly are. But then I did something unexpected. I told him, I will not destroy you. I will not send you to prison. I simply want honesty, because all my life I was surrounded by mirrors, not people." I turned to Sonia, the only one who wept for me. "Sonia, you will help rebuild this company starting today." Her eyes widened. She stammered, "Me? But sir, You saw me when nobody else did. That is worth more than all the contracts in this building. Here is the truth. I didn't vanish to test them. I vanished to test myself. You never really know who loves you until they have nothing to gain from it. Money brings attention. Power brings admiration. Status brings followers. But truth brings connection. Today, I walk Lagos with no entourage. I still ride the bus sometimes just to feel the rhythm of ordinary life. At the end, we are all just people fighting to be seen for who we really are. I still disappear, not physically, but emotionally, stepping away from the deals and the headlines just to stand inside myself. Because now I know something priceless. It is better to be truly known by one person than falsely loved by millions. I died to the world so I could return to myself. And this time, I did live through life. And I know my real friends and not those predators wey fit kiss my shoes because I get money. This also make me know say after God na money. Please subscribe, like and share our stories.